Aibowan, Wanakam, Mamakachak Hondamai. A warm and heartfelt welcome to all of you gathered today for the third session of Thema Talks Season 2, held in collaborations with Connaissance the Salon and Travel Design by CDC. We are pleased to welcome you all today. A year ago, Thema Collection started Thema Talks, where we created one common platform to unite industry leaders, experts, and stakeholders on a common platform. In this season, we are thrilled to embrace a hybrid session where we are combining the best of in-person and online interactions. Today's discussion is especially close to our hearts. Empowering women in tourism, breaking barriers, and shaping destinations. This topic aligns perfectly well with the concept of our newly opened hotel, Ambayalu Kandalama, Sri Lanka's first 100% women-led hotel. While women make up nearly 54% of the global tourism workforce, only a few leadership roles are held by them. And this gap is evident in Sri Lanka, where only about 10 to 15% of the leadership roles are held by women. In today's discussion, we plan on exploring the barriers women face, from social norms to lack of training opportunities, and safety concerns that women face in this place. To dive onto this crucial conversation, I am honored to introduce our esteemed panelists. Mrs. Shirani Yasaratne, Senior Advisor of Biodiversity Sri Lanka and President at the Institute of Environment Professionals Sri Lanka. Mrs. Subhashini Paul, Secretary to the Chairman and Business Coordinator at Connaissance the Salon and Thema Collection. Ms. Subraja Subramanian, Deputy Country Director at Australia's Markets Development Facility in Sri Lanka. Ms. Chanel Rodrigo, Travel Content Creator and CEO of Chanela. Ms. Jivanti Adhikari, Manager of Ambayalu Kandalama. Each of these remarkable women brings a unique perspective to our discussion, and I can't wait for you all to hear their stories. Also, there will be a small interactive question and answer session at the end of the session, so if you all have any questions, feel free to ask during that time period. To commence our session, first, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Subhashini Paul. Mrs. Subhashini, having dedicated years to the hospitality industry at Connaissance the Salon and Thema Collection, can you share what initially inspired you to come to this career? And also, what qualities or skills do you think that a woman should definitely have in them to thrive in this industry?
Thanks, Enuki, for having me. First, to talk about what inspired me. I come from an extremely conservative background where we were not given a lot of opportunity to travel or to go about or meet people. It was, 10, 15 years back, it was not like this. So for me, working in the travel industry was the ticket to go, explore, meet people. So that is why I first joined the travel industry. So coming in after that, over the next 10 years, it was definitely the adrenaline rush, because with Chairman, it has always been one project. It could be a group coming in, it could be a new hotel. So practically the last 10, 15 years has been like something new every day. So that was what kept me going, to tell you what inspired me to come into the industry. Then to the skills, what I think women need mostly, or even anyone else, but still for women, I would say you have to be dedicated. You really need to know how to balance your work life. So sometimes there are places where you have to be a little shrewd. You need to know how to balance your home front. You need to know how to balance your kids. Then you need to know how to come to office and balance your office, your colleagues, your bosses, whoever. Then thereafter, you have to be, attention to detail is crucial, especially in the travel industry, because we are talking about, it's not just only us or doing that one specific job. So we are catering to other people, guests coming in, what they have to say, what their needs, if they're sick, or if they're, especially their likes. So you need to know, then you need to know about Sri Lanka. You have to have the presence of mind to say, okay, you like this, you can do this. If you come to a hotel, you're staying here, you can go look around, see this is what is there, or you know, you have to, that kind of thing you need to have. Then planning, coordinating, things like that also, again, because predominantly from the Connaissance aspect, it's more like we have a lot of guests, a lot of planning, that kind of thing going in. So I think it's attention to detail, planning and coordinating. That is what are the key skills you need, along with many other things.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Subhashini. As she said, being a woman in this industry, we get some sort of pressure from our parents at first when we are joining here, which is particularly because of the social norms in the country. But she overcame all of this and she came to this position. Thank you, Ms. Subhashini, for your words. Now, I'm honored to introduce Ms. Shirani Yasaratne. Ms. Yasaratne, you're a prominent figure in the environmental sector. How important do you think it is to ensure women's voice are heard in decision-making processes in this field?
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm honored to be here. Mr. Chandra Wickramasinghe and I have gone a long way in this tourism field, and I have to say to this audience that I was one of the few employees at the Central Environmental Authority at the time the Kandalama Hotel was being mooted. And also to say that I am one of the first graduates from Sri Lanka, from a Sri Lankan university on environmental science. So maybe I can say that although women are kind of, not in leadership roles in the environmental field, there are some very prominent women who have taken a lead role in the environmental management of the country. So way back 30 years ago, we didn't really know much about the management of the environment, especially in an area like this. But people like Chandra and perhaps Mr. Prema Kure, who was also the chairman of Aitken Spence at the time, helped us to understand the intricacies of environmental management that is required. And we have an icon in the Kandalama Hotel today, which we can boast of one that has gone through environmental safeguards and things like that. Even here, I don't know how many of you walk down to the waterfront there, where the lake is, and you can see that there is a buffer area that has been left, which is an important one when you consider the damages and destruction that can happen due to environmental consequences. So talking about women in the field of environment, I was the first employee of the Central Environmental Authority. I don't know if the managers at that time thought of me as a woman, but I worked there for 15 years, and never in one day have I ever been discriminated, or I have been, looked down upon. There was actually looked up at the women who are there in the authority. And Sri Lankan women have always held a high place. Chandra mentioned that his mother and his wife are prominent women in his life. And Sri Lankan women have always held a very high place. And when we look at our grandmothers and mothers, we have the same sort of feel. But I have to say that in rural Sri Lanka, women play a leading role in the conservation of the environment, because often they are the ones that are left at home when the men folk go out to the fisher as fishers or whatever, and they are left to manage their homes and are also very much involved or are impacted by the degradation of the environment. I mean, you know, in rural Sri Lanka, we have open hearths and stoves, and they consume a lot of carbon monoxide when they are cooking. Nobody understands that these are impacts that can, you know, happen. They are also impacted by climate exigencies. In Sri Lanka, there is a lot of problems today because of climate change. And, you know, so the voice of women are needed much more in the managing the environment of Sri Lanka. We know that even in leading positions in the parliament, we have this time about 20 or 22 seats in the parliament, which is quite good when you compare it to what we had in the previous you know, regimes. But 22 is just a 10% of what we are, you know, not even, and it's not even 10%. So we need to increase the number of decision makers in the leading, you know, parliamentary world also in the country. It is getting better, and also even in these, you know, let's say the conversations we have on the UNFCCC or the Convention on Biological Diversity, there are very few we can see in the ministries of environment, seas of heads of men who make the decisions where Sri Lanka is concerned when we have to go for these national, you know, dialogues and things like that. So even in our own organization, when we try to find women in our boards and things like that, there are very few really who are there in the sustainability field as leaders. So we need to push this up. For this, what we are doing is we have a course that we have initiated at the University of Colombo, the Business and Environment degree. So we have quite a number of youngsters today who are churned through this degree program, who are going out there to you know, share the voice of women in field of environment. So whilst we are doing as best as we can, I have to tell you that women should have a much better voice in the field of environment. It's getting better, but as the major impacted you know, gender, I think women should be given a much more prominent place.
Yes, Ms. Shirani, thank you. A woman's voice is as important as a man's voice in any industry. Now, let's hear from Ms. Subraja. As the Deputy Country Director of Market Development Facility, can you share some impactful initiatives that you have witnessed or contributed to that effectively empower women in this tourism industry?
Thank you for that question. Before I can answer that, I think maybe I should set some context on what kind of work we do in tourism, and then kind of come into how important it is for us to work with women in tourism and increasing participation. MDF champions sustainable tourism as one of our big bets in the overall sector. And when we look at sustainable tourism, what we're trying to see is how can we work with some pioneering, you know, forward-looking businesses to really build Sri Lanka's competitiveness and really sort of hone in on the competitive advantage that the country can have in the field of tourism. So this is probably the best time to be looking at that as well, because we're going through a period of recovery, which is more or less driven by volume tourism, which is not a bad thing, but with it comes some emerging sort of nuances, you know. So it's best to get ahead of the curve. And some businesses who are in the room today have been ahead of the curve on that sort of thing. Where women in tourism really comes in is if you look at, you know, setting up sustainable tourism, some of the key things we'll be working with private sector is looking at how can we help diversify product, how can we help build business models, experiences that can put them ahead of the curve, how can we look at innovative marketing, etc. But all of that has to be underpinned by some of the fundamentals, some of the historic constraints that the sector has faced. And one of those is labor. If you ask any hotelier or anyone in the HoReCa sector, one of their top 3 issues will be a shortage of skilled labor. But the way MDF sees it, that actually presents an opportunity to really see how can we introduce women into the tourism workforce? How can we make them a more intentional, active part of the solution? In terms of what, coming back to your question, in terms of what we've seen or what we've been a part of, to be quite honest about it, I think lots of businesses are doing things, sort of strategies and initiatives in their own silos to try and improve participation of workforce at a high level and to really target increasing women's participation in those workforces as well. But what the gap is a sector level approach. So when these efforts are being done in smaller sort of areas and we're not sharing the best practices and we're not trying to come at it from a regional level or from a sector-wide industry level, there are small gaps, there's constant reinvention of the wheel that can happen at a business level. And that's where MDF comes in. You know, we work with some really great private sector partners, TMI is one of them, JetWing is one of them. We're able to kind of bring some of those learnings together and try and see how we can drive an industrial level effort to really deal with this problem. At the onset of, right after COVID was over actually, we conducted a national survey together with the Sri Lankan Tourism Alliance, and we spoke to about 700 to 1,000 women who were working in tourism as well as out of tourism. And we were trying to kind of understand what are some of the constraints women face to be a part of tourism and what's stopping them from entering tourism. So like a two-pronged approach. And you know, on the front of it, we thought obviously the first thing would be the stigma that would stop them from entering tourism, but it wasn't. The number one leading reason was a lack of awareness of the kind of opportunities women had in tourism. Stigma was probably number 3 or 4 on the list. And that was a really good shift in how we looked at the problem, how we were able to frame solutions. We socialized this with the industry early last year, and we've been working with some private sector partners in looking at how we can test some of the solutions. There are some businesses who want to take that first step, want to really kind of move into that space, see how they can solution through some of that. And in fact, Thema and we have been working together on sustainable tourism and green tourism initiatives. And we're now exploring how with something like, you know, Ambayalu, which is a fabulous initiative, how we can sort of support them to make this a more sustained, long-term, self-sustaining initiative. How can we help them retain this dream? How can we make it, constantly make the business case to keep it running? So yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Subraja. That was very helpful to all of us. Now, let's welcome Ms. Chanel Rodrigo. Mrs. Chanel, as a leading personal brand in travel and lifestyle industry, how does it feel like knowing that your voice has a great impact on all people coming to Sri Lanka and choosing Sri Lanka as a destination?
Thank you so much, Senugi, for the question and for inviting us on today. I feel, first of all, very humbled that I have this platform, but I also understand that the platform has been built with our work, but also with the interest and the trust that the audience has put in us. So there's a lot of responsibility, I feel, in sharing and what to share and what not to share. I think it's really important to think about the country as a whole and tourism as a whole before deciding this is a place to promote and this is a place to not promote. So in that sense, we take a lot of care in deciding what to share, and we think a lot about the places that already suffer from over-tourism and then try to take that and take that attention that we have and point tourists in a different direction where there's a lot more beautiful things to see and explore and discover on this island that just go unnoticed. And if you can just like redirect them, and a lot of people are looking to travel to places that are not very popular, they want something new, they want a niche experience, they don't want just the top 10 list anymore, they want to come and really engage with the locals, they want to really understand how the people live. And we like to show them those things, something meaningful that they can take back home with them, a memory that they can create. And in that sense, it's a really good thing, I think, in our opinion, to focus on that kind of travel as well, because what happens is you create a more, how do I say this? You create a more meaningful experience, you create a more meaningful tourism experience, not only for the tourists, but also for the locals who are now engaging in it. We can now look at tourism as a way of protecting a culture. I think a lot about Galloya, Wild Glamping Galloya, and the setup there. It's done in such a lovely way, very much a part of nature. There's a lot of growing, there's a plantation that's going on, very sustainable. The architecture is also very unique and done in a lovely local architect who has done the place up. They've highlighted some amazing animals, some reptiles that are only popular and seen in that region. And that's something I didn't know before I went there. So, and not to mention last but not least, how they have preserved the Vedda culture, and how they are also a part of the program, and not in a gimmicky marketing way, but in a way that you can engage with them, learn from them, try the food and see the culture. So we like to use our platform to give that kind of experience, because we are very hyper aware of the influence that we do have, and we want to take a proactive action to make sure that we are influencing people to go in a different direction and not to add to over-tourism.
Thank you, Chanel. Yes, Sri Lanka is a country which has a lot of hidden gems, and people like you are sharing it with the world and showing them what they can experience once they come here. Okay, now let's move on to Ms. Jeevanti. You are the first manager of a 100% women-led hotel in our country. How do you feel about this? How did you encourage the participation of women in this hotel? What are the challenges that you faced when coming up with this? And do you have any success stories to share with us?
Well, I want everybody. It's full of challenges actually at the initial stage. And once I was given the opportunity to join with Tema Collection, and when I got to know about this concept of the hotel, it's going to be led by 100% women, and also after having a discussion with the chairman, his inspiration was that the ladies in the country, they are doing a prominent part in their maybe society or at home, and to give them the right value is one idea that he had, and as well to serve the community, and so on. He has inspirations, so that with that I thought, okay, this is the right place for me to join and join with it. So the challenge-wise, if I bring my story as well, like this is the first time I'm handling this position, so that it was a challenge for me as well. But luckily I was a person who takes challenges. And the company has taken the strategies right, that to hire me in advance and to facilitate with the shadow management in one of the well-reputed hotel with Tema Collection, that's Alia. So that I was hired in September, in the month of September, and until now I was given right directions and the training. So on the rest of the department heads as well, like it was challenging to find, like the whole industry, if we take right now, is challenging to find skilled labor. When it comes to 100% women, it's even more challenging. But still, we approached the universities and the places where they produce skilled labor for particular departments, and through them we hired them and trained them. And also, as the chairman wanted to serve the community, we wanted to hire and give the opportunity to the surrounding school leavers and single mothers, and so on. He had, I can make a list of all those. And we hired some freshers and we trained them. One positive side, I mean, a lot of positive things are there. One thing that I can highlight is, like, when it comes to hospitality industry, the soft skills are very important. The technical part we can train with the time. The time that it takes will take, but still, when you have the soft skills, and it's like the right attitude and your smile, with these things, we have got the hospitality right, I think the first step of the hospitality industry. So that even though we had challenges, slightly with the time we could overcome. And I'm sorry, if I mention another thing, that is when we started, at the initial stage, I said that we had some challenges. Like, we as women, within ourselves also we had some challenges. Like, everybody thought, like, from our family background also we have brought this that we are overprotective sometimes, so that maybe in our subconscious mind that is there that fine, these are the jobs that we can do, this kind of task we will leave it for male colleagues to do, like that maybe. So that to break that barrier, it took a while. So with the time they understood that we also have potential, it's only thing that we have not given it a try maybe. So now they have opened the hotel, we have opened the hotel, so that we all have realized our potential, and now its next step is to continue as a running hotel.
I also think with the opening of Vambayalu, it inspires most of the female community to come into this field, because as a lot, it's very less that most females, they come to the front end, yes, but in the back end, when we go to a hotel, it's very less that we see. But with the opening of Vambayalu, women are given that opportunity to realize that they can do it all by themselves, and I think it's a really good concept here. Now, going back to Ms. Subhashini. Mrs. Subhashini, with your extensive experience in the industry, what would you do to encourage more women to enter here, to the traditionally male-dominated areas within the industry, such as senior management roles, adventure tourism, and logistics? What would you tell that would encourage them to enter those areas?
Okay, like Subraja just mentioned, mostly lack of awareness is what is crucial here, because a lot of people don't know. I mean, some of us, or the younger generation today, actually have more information at the tip of their hands, because there is the internet, social media, all of that. So some people know, but then again, there is, like both Ms. Shirani and Subraja mentioned, there is a set of people who are at home, who run the houses, who are not aware that this is. I mean, even to guide your kids, you don't know these opportunities are available. Like, say now, Connaissance is handling predominantly inbound tourism. We have so many opportunities. If you love your language, if you love to travel, there are opportunities. But I don't think a lot of girls out there know that these opportunities are available. I have like, before like 10 years back, we had like only 3-4 girls in the department. Now I have about 50 girls in Connaissance doing various roles. So people have come in, the more in it, but still for all, there is still more to go. There are tour guiding positions. Handful of people only know that this is available. They know that, I mean, people love to learn. If you go to the university, most of the people who are going through the language courses are girls. But we go looking for a tour guide, there are practically no girls there. So these are things, there is a potential, a lot of things that can be done if you love to travel. So it's industry professionals, university, schools especially, need to give school leavers the education that we go through that traditional, you study maths, you study science, you become a doctor, you become a nurse. That era has gone now. Now you have to give kids those innovative thoughts, like now Chanel is going branding, traveling. It's like you see it, we love it because we are aware of it, we know, we see. But then there are girls and boys, so I mean, since we are talking about a more girl platform, it's girls who are there who would love to travel, who would love to do it. So schools especially should take a more initiative to give the girls or girls the knowledge, saying these positions are available once you leave school. You don't have to become a doctor, you don't have to become a nurse. You can go and do a tour guide, you can go hike, you can show people the country. You can come to a hotel, you can cook. I mean, I personally love to cook. If it was not this, it would have definitely become... The thing is, my parents didn't know that there was a professional way of learning to cook. They thought cooking was only for the household. So today, this role, I love it, but still for all, it would have been something else that could have inspired us. So that knowledge should be made available at the initial stage. Then we should, I think, again, give university courses, things like that, where again, young girls who want to come in can strengthen themselves to back it up. After that knowledge, and then now going back to, once you have come into the industry, again, the industry of people who are in the industry need to make it a bit more conducive for people to come and work. I mean, we have a lot of girls coming in, they start work, 2 years down the line, they get married, have a baby, they stop. So we've had, I mean, we have so many girls who come in, get married, they stay back because it's a bit hard to balance the work life. So we have now, 10 years later, now we have Chairman Maxim, they have facilitated for girls, like given the opportunity for the work from home, flexi hours, things like that. So there is a part the industry also has to play where others get the opportunity. So we can manage the house, we can come to office and manage the office also. So things like that, those are crucial, I think. So people feel like, I can come in, I can stay, I can. And then again, boys or men out there also need to be given awareness, because true, now say if these girls come in, they are new. They need to be given the guidance. Whoever who is already in the industry, as it is right now, not every girl will get a female mentor. So whoever the male role, whoever is there, should be open-minded enough to guide them, teach them, give them the ropes to go forward. So it's men also have a little, have to help them out to get there, do whatever it is. So I think that's how it should be, to get people to come in, stay, and go forward.
Yeah, Subhashini. A woman has an evident role both in the house and in the workplace. And as soon as the freshers come up, we need the support of even the male and the female leads to take us through the right path, to show us the path to go there. Thank you, Ms. Subhashini, for your words. Going back, Ms. Shirani, can you share some of the initiatives or the projects you are currently involved that support women's empowerment in tourism while promoting environmental sustainability?
Actually, as Chanel mentioned, we are in a unique country. I mean, every one of us should realize how blessed we are, that every bit of land we have has unique biodiversity. You mentioned that you hadn't seen some of the biodiversity in the Galoya area. So how many people are like that who don't really know the endemism? I mean, there may be something unique in this mango thing. And nowadays, we are looking at non-protected areas as areas of rich biodiversity. So wherever we put a foot in, our nation is blessed with biodiversity. So the more people that understand that, the more people that understand that tourism is prevalent in Sri Lanka, we are talking about 2 million tourists coming here, is because of the natural assets that we have. So women and men and all Sri Lankans should realize that it's our duty to protect this beautiful nation. So talking about women in our sort of projects, one thing is that Biodiversity Sri Lanka is a network that works with private sector. Most of the companies we work with realize that gender equality is a very important part of their business. Even Sustainable Development Goal number 5 talks about equality and gender, and also looking at the position of women and girls in the workforce. So that realization is there among the corporates, and I think more so in the tourism sector. Now we see it daringly here in Thema Collection, Jetwing, then all these large tourism chains, they all have a very good eye on women in this sustainable tourism. Now looking at some examples, as you asked me, there are 2 that I can bring out. One is that we, this is an old initiative. Way back in 2006, I think, when the tsunami hit Sri Lanka, there was a lot of, emphasis on getting people in the management of the environment. And we worked in Rakava, which was heavily, impacted by the wave, and women and men and all of these were doing a lot of work on trying to safeguard themselves. So there at that time we initiated a women-led cooperative, which is today also in existence, where women take the lead and they have a nest egg in the cooperative, and they lead women in community-based tourism, where they are taught about how to be a naturalist, how to take a tourist out, to show the natural assets that are there in that area, and whatever is earned, the percentage goes back into that cooperative. And today, till today, this community-based tourism is very much prevalent in this Rakava stretch that we worked in. So that was a very good example of women taking a lead seat in looking after their families. And of course, the cooperative allows loans and things like that when a family is in dire straits and they need some extra money to sort of manage, and it's all managed by women. And we've also given some training on business management. Now, these small and medium enterprises do not have the knowledge to keep their finances. It's mostly men who do that, but women, I think, have a huge role to play in safeguarding the financial situation in their homes. So it's not such a big thing to do to actually get them involved in this sort of thing. Then we also have another project in the Kanneliya Conservation Forest, where we have restored 50 acres of rich rainforest, and it's all done with community participation. The women are now being trained to again become naturalists in taking tourists on this restoration pathway that we have done, so that they can take them to their homes also, share a meal, this cultural food sort of tourism, and also explain what was done in actually regenerating this area. So it is, of course, nice to see the enthusiasm, but like you said, when they have a baby and when they have to go back home, sometimes they have to get back to, but actually in our field, what we find is the passion is needed more than anything else, like you mentioned. You need to have that huge urge to do this, and even after the baby and after the baby has grown up, sometimes they come back saying that they like to do this sort of thing. So to these young ladies here, I only wish to say that don't get deterred, because there are so many people who have done this before you, and there are women in the field who are ready to support you, to train you, to give you all the encouragement, and also to help you to understand that women have a role to play in this kind of thing. And there are many examples that have been forged before you. So just take the challenge like has been done by the general manager here. All you have to do is to be courageous and take that challenge, and then, go forward, and there'll be many people behind you. There was one instance, I don't know why, but this happens. When I came and got down here, a lady came forward to carry my suitcase. And I felt like, oh my gosh, is this the right thing that's happening? Because men generally do that, So even the ladies who drummed yesterday, drumming is a very much men predominated activity. So, things are changing, and we have to understand that. And even when diving, as you said, is a men's sort of thing. And there are girls who actually go out there, and you don't know how many fisher nets are around these coral reefs, blocking the reefs from growing. And these girls, they go out in teams and they actually remove those nets. So, these things are being done because they want to do it. So there are many things that girls can do, and we can only encourage you to go forward. And there are many people to support you also in this field.
Thank you, Ms. Shirani, for those meaningful words. Ms. Subraja, can you give me a brief idea, an idea that you have, which any organization need to do to create a supportive environment for women in tourism and hospitality?
That's the magic question, right? So there's no one answer to it. I think at the core of it is and it's not just the onus is not just on the business, it's on the entire ecosystem that tourism operates in. What can you do for females to consider working in tourism as a career and not just a job? And I think that's one of the main sort of questions we're trying to answer as well. And that starts with, like Subhashini was saying, it starts with awareness about what working in tourism can look like. Now, for example, say you talk to a graduate who's just finished an accounting degree or like a basic marketing degree. If you ask them where do you want to work, they'll probably talk about working at a bank, they'll talk about what are the conglomerates. Hardly any of them talk about working in tourism sector. But those are roles, if you're someone who's good with numbers, you could kill demand planning work. You could be in the forefront of building incentives and travel incentives, tourism plans. But you don't associate your education, your skill set, your career trajectory with the sector. And I think that's something we all have to answer for, because is it because there's a lack of awareness on what work in tourism can look like, and has enough been done to kind of give that information as part of education? So like Subhashini was saying, you have to make sure that people in schools, when they're considering careers, as they're moving up the ranks, as they're making plans, are thinking about this. And it's not just for schools, even in smaller community groups, in places like Kandalama, where your community and your village can make a big difference in deciding your career trajectory. Are we feeding with the right kind of information and intel for people to make those decisions about their career path? That's one big part of it. To do that, I personally believe, and I think there's also literature behind this, that the media plays a really big role as well. When we talk about tourism, when we talk about the roles women have, the opportunities women have, a lot of it's to do with the storytelling. And storytelling is a really big part of creating awareness, which is what people like Chanel are doing. And that's such a big responsibility that everyone has to take on. And it doesn't just lie with the tourism organization itself, it lies with everyone who wants to see this thrive and grow in Sri Lanka. From our survey that we did last year, one of the sort of key constraints we were starting to see was for women who did enter tourism. As they were rising, they found that at the middle management level, they weren't getting the support to go beyond. And there were quite a few specifics that were addressed, but at the very least, they were saying at the middle management level, they found, like you mentioned, about when they start having children, and for women, right, as they're moving through their career, their fertility childbearing age is also moving in line with that. So there comes a time where you have to make a few quick choices. And that's why your workplace and the environment you're in can make a big difference. Understanding that nuance, especially if you're a male manager and if you are working with women, knowing that, having that kind of intelligence and knowing how to manage that situation, having an employee who can support you through that makes a really big difference. And that comes with, and I think it's something when we say skill and development, like Daniel was saying, we talk a lot about technical stuff, what will make you, drive bottom line, get you to the end result. But those softer skills, the more nuanced things that really make a workplace human, which are really sort of the harder long-term work that you have to do to get those results, is what we need to really be thinking about. It's almost easier for women to understand when another woman says, I'm going to go, I need some time off or whatever, etc. But for a man also, I think the onus is on us to kind of share that information and have those open conversations and make men part of the solution. Because if we don't all work together on building those inclusive work environments, it's not going to be a long-term sustainable solution. It'll be like quick one-off things that we do. That's not self-sustaining. So really creating enabling workforces which are inclusive and really bring people together is a really big part of that as well. And I think a key thing, and this is what Shran was also saying, role modeling is such a big part of making workplaces conducive and attractive to women. For example, what Ambayala was doing, it's phenomenal. It's, and I was telling Chanel this last evening as well, when I was walking out of my room, I saw 3 girls in their jumpsuits carrying a ladder, and they were on their way to change a light. And I said, I don't think I've ever seen a woman do that in all my time in Sri Lanka. I've never seen women doing those tasks. And it's like what she was saying with the suitcases, and and if it does that for us, imagine what it does for people who are looking at potential work, right? For women, we don't see women playing maintenance roles. We don't think of women in those contexts. We only see them doing soft, happy, smiling jobs. But a job's a job. And really reframing that, role modeling that, showing people what it can look like, that is such a big jump. When Maxime first told us about this aspiration about, setting up a property that was female-led, my first thing was, how soon are you going to do this? And he said, 5 months, 6 months, we want to make it run. And I remember thinking, really? In 5-6 months, you really think you can? And they did it in shorter time frame than that. So that goes to show maybe the problem isn't as clear-cut as we think. It isn't just, women wouldn't want to do those roles. Maybe women just haven't been given the opportunity to walk into the roles and perform in those roles. So there's a little bit of the demand supply, both ends that we have to look at to tackle that sort of thing.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Supraja. That's a very valid point. Women also has the ability to do all of those, but there's quite less opportunity. And I think in most countries, especially in our country, they do not think that women will have the potential for that. But with properties like this opening up, it will clearly show the world that women can also do those. Okay, Ms. Chanel. Your journey as a travel content creator, it's fascinating. You started from humble beginnings and now you are a global influencer. Growing up, did you imagine yourself doing this? How was your journey? Did it surprise you when you came to this position?
I think growing up, like what Supraja said, I'd like to build on that. Role modeling for women is really important. And I think, like we discussed earlier, thinking of something more than just a job, but a career, because when you think of a job, you're thinking, okay, I will do this for the next 2 to 3 years. But when you're thinking of a career, you're thinking of a very long-term idea of who you want to be, and it's a part of your life as a woman, as a wife, as a mother. You will play all those roles alongside your career. And I think imagining it as a career is the first step to getting to a certain place at a certain age. Yes, I didn't expect this outcome because I didn't imagine it at a very young age. I think at a very young age I wanted to be a businesswoman, you know. I wanted to be like my mother. One of my female role models that I looked up to was Otara. I was obsessed with her. I thought she was everything. And I still am quite influenced by her. So it's very important as a woman to find someone to look up to, because when you see a woman out there doing things, you imagine that you also can do that. And being able to visualize and imagine is the first step to doing, because if you cannot picture yourself in a position, same thing right now at Ambayalu, for all the girls that are working here, seeing Jeevanti heading this operation is a vision of them. They can see themselves in your role in the future. They have a reason to stay on, hold on, work through the difficulties, come back after their children, because they know I also can work up to this position. And that is very important. So I think that's one thing. And I'd like to also build on what Subhashini was saying, which is that maybe this is a bit controversial, but we are living, this world has been built in a way, corporate things, etc. It's a man's world. It's made in a way that it's easier for a man to function through the processes of life. And women have a very different role to play. So when women come into the workforce, they're not only working as a career woman, they have a separate career at home as a mother, because the responsibility of a family, a child, and their future falls heavily on them as well. So it's 2 jobs. Actually, I was speaking with the ambassador yesterday, and she mentioned the same thing, that said that most women do 2 24-hour jobs in one day. And it goes completely under the radar because those are all undervalued. The things that you do as a mother, as a wife, as a homemaker, all the things that are unpaid but are so valuable. So in that sense, it takes a helping hand of a male partner or an ally to help a woman to come up into this stage. Now, even this hotel that we are at and that we are celebrating, it takes someone like Mr. Chandra to recognize, you know, I'm at a place I can create this space for women, you know, and he's quite inspired by his mother and his wife and the women in his life. And just like that, I do believe that having a vision for yourself is important. Having a role model is important, but I also think that another thing that makes it easier for women to get to where they're going is having a progressive husband, father, brother, some male support in your life. I'm not saying that it's not possible without it. It is definitely possible. There are lots of women who have pushed through difficult circumstances and become very successful today. But at the same time, men are our allies. We need their help, and they have to be a part of this conversation and a part of this community in order to increase female representation. So I think that's why this is a very wonderful step forward. So thank you, Mr. Chandra. See, he's right here.
Thank you, Chanel. Last but not least, we have Ms. Jeevanti. From your perspective, what unique qualities do women bring to the tourism industry, which helps the travelers enjoy a more meaningful traveling experience?
Well, I think I added that earlier as well. When you compare men and women, I think women are recognized as they're having soft skills already, and maybe tender, gentleness, all these qualities are there. So hospitality industry is all about these soft skills. So when you have more women, I think you get more element of that.
Yeah, and also we can say that women has mostly the qualities that a mother has. They have the nurturing qualities within them.
Yes.
So in hospitality industry, that nurturing quality is very, very important because we want our guests to feel that nurture. And Sri Lanka is a country which is high on hospitality. So I think this is also giving an opportunity for women to come forward and show their side, their nurturing side, as they have experience from their mothers and their aunts, and they are giving it to the guests. I think that's a wonderful concept. Yes, thank you, Ms. Jeevanti, and thank you all my panelists for sharing your insights today. Now it's the time of the audience. If you all have any questions, please feel free to ask. We will give you a chance to voice out any questions you have. Also, our online audience, if you all have any question, please unmute and ask your questions.
I'm Shiraji from Daily News. Just to check, you have from your staff, what is the percentage of new freshers from the area? That's number one. Number two is there are some old tourism regulations where it deprives women from serving liquor and working in the bars. How do you overcome that?
So his question was, women getting into this industry, the kind of difficulties that we find women for bars and those. Policy level regulations.
Well, roughly I could say it's more than 20% from the surrounding area.
And we also got a lot of staff straight out of the universities.
Yes.
So I think it wasn't that easy to get the staff. At first, we had to search for them a lot with our HR team reaching out a lot, and somehow we managed to find staff even for the challenging jobs like the bar. It wasn't quite easy, I'd say. I know for a fact that they had to work quite a lot on that, but there was quite a lot of freshers.
Yeah, like Jeevanti said, it's about 20% or 15 to 20%. Most of them, here especially, most of them are new. Like some, Jeevanti and a couple of others are industry experienced girls and boys, but then most of them are, our HR team had a time finding, sourcing, especially because we want to give opportunity to people close by, so that is also there. Okay, the regulatory part we'll have to. That is a trick question.
Thank you. This is for Mr. Chandra Wickramasinghe. Can Mr. Wickramasinghe tell us, when did you conceive this concept? Why? And how did you get on about it? Thank you, Chandra.
I think this after COVID, only we start talking about new trends of tourism, and where all of us went doing nothing controlled by the women at home. So I thought if they can control like this, running a hotel isn't a problem. So I thought, this is the best time for us to get inspired by a lot of women during COVID time. They did a lot of, they looked after us well. And also it's a matter of gender equality, MDF, UN, all these people started talking about it. So I thought of, and also we are looking for a kind of USP, unique sales point for this particular hotel, which is only 30 rooms. And also we have super giants and fantastic hoteliers around the area, like Hiran, and Hiran is supporting women in management. He's the first person to make all his younger girls the managers who was there, I know. Now younger Imo, I remember your first manager, when your dad is there, I was a tour guide, and she was one of the first receptionists at Negombo. And they have given opportunities. I think this kind of things, you can't get it from the international chains. I don't think it's very difficult to get. I think JetTwin has how many women managers? I got 5 women managers. I got a little bit inspiration from them too, because whenever I go to their hotel, there's a woman comes and talk to you nicely, and you can see a super perfectly managed hotels. But in international hotel chains in Colombo, I don't see a single woman coming and doing any role other than housekeeper. So actually we kept even the hotel, travel industry, hotel industry, women must be a housekeeper, cleaning. So that's a mentality we had. Okay, receptionists we had. Oh, these are the 2 roles that we were talking about in industry, hotel industry. So I thought of doing it. Mrs. Mahal Gay, Shamari was at the tourist board, and now she's also doing a leading part on gender equality in tourism. So this is what I was inspired. I said, my mother, my wife, and all the women around us, even my secretary, how she works, we know that their capabilities is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chandra.
Well, this question is directed at Jivanti, whom I have known her for, say, about at least a couple of decades, where she's performed very well, probably starting as a bartender, am I right? And winning many competitions and coming up the ladder. Now, my question is that the father and son combination, Ms. Wickramasinghe have created the precedent with an all-women hotel, a new concept. Though, as he rightly said, Mr. Hiran Kure started it, getting women into management positions. Here it's different because it's all-women hotel. Now, I have 2 questions. The first question is, would you think this is sustainable for women to continue like this, or the men will lose their foothold in the hotels, or do they have to look for some other avenue?
They will lose their souls. Well, you don't have to be afraid you will not lose anything, or the men will not lose their jobs as well. The main idea setting up this hotel is to pass the message one way for the ladies also to realize their potential, because they didn't know that they could do, and they all could come together and do, because we always have been leaving some room for the men to do. So now they have realized that yes, they can break the barriers. Breaking the barrier is a one-time thing, that they have done it so that there will be so many followers, so that always it will sustain.
Can I add on to it a little bit? So to add on to the question, actually, is this a sustainable practice? I would definitely say, yes, it is a sustainable practice. If we women can run our houses, we can definitely run a hotel. That is simple as that. It's just the scale is a bit bigger. The attention to detail is a bit more. But you can definitely do it. So it's all you girls out there, there is so much of potential, so much of opportunities, be it cleaning, be it cooking, be it a naturalist, be it a content creator. This industry has something for everyone. It's just you need to go out, find it, and be determined. I can balance my house. I can definitely, I've been doing it for some time. All of these ladies here have been doing it for some time. So for all of you out there, you can do it, especially these freshers who are here. It's just you have to be determined to get there. So just to add on a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Jeevanti, and thank you, Ms. Subhashini. We also have one more question. Yeah, please. Hand over the mic, yeah.
Can I make a comment, not a question, based on actually what Shirani and Chanel said? First of all, Chandra, Patricia, Shamin and Maxine, congratulations. This is something very unique, and hats off to all of you and the Thema team. What I want to say is, especially more to the people in these areas, there has to be a mindset change. Remember, we are coming from an age of hunter-gatherer, right, where the men went hunting and the women stayed at home. And that's why, Chanel, you're right. This is obviously a male-dominated society. If you read the Bible or the teachings of the Buddha, it's all directed, the messages are always directed towards men, sadly. That is a fact. So now, when it comes to women in different roles, as Shirani was saying, are you allowing somebody to take the bag and go to the room, which is a female? It needs a mindset change. The community needs a mindset change. Now, all these young girls who are seated in front will fall in love. Then they will have boyfriends. Their parents, their in-laws will say, no, this is not a place for the girls to work. And these girls who have a wonderful future in hospitality, they will stop working. Because the male-dominated society that you're talking of, which is true, right? The man will say, stop working. The girl stops working, right? So that requires a complete mindset change if in these areas, we have seen it, Chandra, you have seen it all over, where the girls start really maturing. They'll take 3 years to really become good hospitality experts. And as they are, maturing into good hospitality professionals, that's also the time that they'll fall in love, which is natural, which is not unnatural at all for a girl to fall in love with a man. That is natural, right? And then what happens? The boy will say, don't go to work. And the girl stops. We've had many, I've personally spoken, to many girls saying, don't do this. And spoken to the parents, don't do this. Allow the girl to work, but no. So that's one thing. And another thing in male-dominated societies, even for us, in our minds, also it's difficult. Like in Singapore, I booked a Grab. And Grab said, your driver Angie will be coming. Right? And now I'm not used to an Angie picking me up, right? And I was asking my friend, Machan, where do I sit? Do I sit in front with her or do I sit at the back, right? Because normally it's the driver who comes who's a man, right? Now I've never gone where a female drives and I'm seated at the back. That's the first time for me. And I was actually uncomfortable sitting in the back. And Angie drove me to the airport, right? So this is, again, it requires, Shirani, it requires a mindset change that, so it takes a long time, and congratulations to Thema for taking this lead. So the young girls who are working here, don't give up. You will be put under pressure by your families, by your boyfriends, whatever, husbands. Please communicate with them. Maybe the management also need to, assist them with all the stuff that goes on. Sri Rajiv, your question about females working behind bars. Yes, we have a 1916 excise law. Right, late Mangala Samaravira tried to change it. Unfortunately, the Buddhist monks went against and put it back. Yeah, because of the Buddhist monks' threat, right? So that again, maybe you can take it up as the other journalists who are here, huh? Yeah, females can't even buy liquor, right? So that's something that maybe the media can take it up and help the industry. Thank you. Sorry for taking so much time.
Thank you.
If I can just add on to what Mr. Hiran just said, I think the times are definitely changing. You know, in Colombo now, I'm often surprised when I get a Uber Eats delivery. It is a female riding a motorcycle or a bicycle showing up and doing my delivery. Or if I take a tuk-tuk or a cab, sometimes it's a lady who's driving it. And it's very encouraging, and as a woman I feel a little flutter and happiness, and I feel like, you go. And I think that's also stemming from the fact that women in the city especially are now realizing the importance, a double income is very important for a household. Husband and wife in the city have to work to make a decent living. But also in general, for a woman to have her own income is really important. And I think that extends even more so in these rural areas. And I think the girls will begin to understand why, as women, you have to have your own savings, you have to have your own income, just in case something happens. And adding on to that, an initiative like Ambayalu is the first step. It's even if the area is not ready at the moment, at least having this building here, it's like a beacon. And it may take a few, maybe even a few years for things to catch up. But the fact that this place exists and that there are real women working here is going to eventually slowly inspire women and change the ideologies of the surrounding rural area. Especially like, who said that? One of us said that there's so much more information at the tips of young girls' fingers at this point in time. All of you girls, you have a smartphone. You're probably using TikTok or Instagram and definitely using Facebook. And there's a lot of information that is available to the girls from the younger generation that wasn't available previously. So I think it's happening. But like you said, it's such a great thing that this initiative has been made, so that now they'll be even more encouraged to take those steps. There's a little bit more faith that they can put in the system, I suppose.
Yeah, just a few words from me as well. I mean, there are a few legends in Sri Lanka on sustainable tourism, and Hiran and Chandra are two of them. And it takes it takes people like that to spearhead this. And Chandra is someone who is always innovating. You never know what the next step will be and what the next experience will be. When I was coming in the vehicle with some of his staff, he said, "We don't know, Chairman will come up with something," So, that's what they expect from you. So this is something very unique, and I would love to see it being sustainable. We don't want it to not be sustainable. Jeevanti, you have a little bit of pressure there. So we want to hold this as a beacon, as an experience, as something that we say, we did it, So we all have to do that, and we will do our best to promote this, this concept amongst all the networks that we know. And we really wish you well in doing this, and we are extremely proud of you and what you have achieved for tourism in Sri Lanka.
Thank you everyone for your invaluable contributions, and to our audience for your active participation. Asha, please, yeah.
I'm from Sri Lanka Tourism, Madhubani. Actually, we should be very thankful to Mr. Chandra Wickramasinghe, Maxim, Chamin, and all the team who had made this great initiative and introducing women to the hospitality industry. So this is a start, and I think this will motivate other hoteliers in the industry to think of this concept and come out with more hotels in the future to cater to these youngsters to make a career in tourism. So, and also Sri Lanka being now recognized as for solo female travelers. And it will be a great opportunity for them to be in this kind of hotel to get the fullest hospitality from the women itself. So it makes them more confident for them to be in these sort of hotels. So from Sri Lanka tourism point of view, we are really proud that this kind of a concept has been created and given the opportunity for youngsters to come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we are going towards the end, and if anyone has any more comments to say, please take this opportunity. Okay. Now we are reaching the end of our session today. For more updates on our sustainability journey, visit our website at www.themacollection.com. Stay connected by following Thema Collection on YouTube and LinkedIn, and Sustainability at Thema Collection on Instagram and Facebook. Until we meet again, take care, stay inspired, and keep pushing boundaries.